Welcome to the Pat White Show.
If you've been to the supermarket in recent weeks, you know the price of eggs has pretty well skyrocketed. And I mean skyrocketed. There are some places now that are limiting people on the amount of eggs they can buy, like 1 dozen per person per day. And they've set limits on that. And you go to the grocery store and you see, boy, all the eggs are gone. I mean, the cases holding the eggs are pretty much empty. And the problem is, eggs are getting scarce. And why? Well, the bird flu. Bird flu has come in and created a big problem because if a bird flu inhabits a area where someone is growing chickens or chickens and eggs, those kind of things, the rule says you have to literally kill the entire flock of chickens. So if you're a farmer and you've got 1 million chickens that you're raising for eggs and for chickens, you get 1 case of bird flu, you have to kill your entire flock. That's a supply and demand problem. And once that supply and demand problem hits, well, the supply will go down, the demand will still be there, therefore the price will go up. Last year, in 2023 it was, price of a dozen eggs climbed up to $4.82 a dozen. Is it going to get that high? Well, probably, because right now they're guessing price of eggs in 2025 is probably going to increase another, 20%. So it's not going to be good. Now, places like restaurants, you've just seen it, folks over at the Waffle House. Now, I don't know if you're a fan of Waffle House or not, but Waffle House says they're going to put a temporary price increase on their eggs. So for every egg you buy, it's going to cost you 50 cents. So if you get your 2-egg breakfast at a Waffle House, it's going to cost you an extra $1. Now, other stores are saying, how dare they do that? The Cracker Barrel people says, oh, we're not going to do that. We're not going to charge an extra on eggs. Well, it may just raise the overall price of their breakfast. Either way, it's going to go up, folks. I don't care who you are. So now you know what's going on. And if you're saying, hey, maybe I'll put in my own chicken coop and raise my own chickens, you might want to think about that again, because zoning laws and business laws and all the other stuff in dealing with government, getting your own chickens, taking care of them, the feed, and worrying about anything happening to your chickens as well as bird flu, well, that can be a very costly endeavor. So hopefully the price of eggs will go down, but until they get the bird flu taken care of and replenish the number of chickens, folks, price of eggs are going to be pretty doggone high. And when the price of eggs goes up, the price of everything else that contains eggs goes up as well. Just something for you to think about. And let's hope it goes down pretty quickly. I don't know if you're a fan of the Olympic Games. Many people are, but obviously some people aren't. Well, the Winter Olympic Games are scheduled next year in Milan Cortina, Italy. That's northern Italy, in case you don't know where that is. And all the venues they have to build for an Olympic event. Turns out one particular venue, they got some problems with, some big problems with. It's the venue for the bobsled, the luge, and the skeleton. That's the one that got down that big chute, all the ice going on the entire thing, and they got to come all the way down, twists and turns and everything else. That thing right now is nothing but mud and dirt right now. The Olympic Committee says, hey, here's the deal, guys. You either show us an inspection, pre-inspection by March of this year. That's next month, folks. You better show us the progress on that thing for pre-certification. Well, that heck, it ain't even built yet. Pre-certification, we're going to see that next month, or we're moving the event. Now you're going, if you're a fan of the luge and the bobsled and the skeleton, you're going, well, other places, they got them all over Europe. Nah. You know where they're going to move the bobsled and the luge to? Lake Placid, New York. You heard me right. The Italy's Olympic Winter Games, a portion of it will be moving to Lake Placid, New York, because guess what they have? A full luge, bobsled, and skeleton facility sitting there ready to go. And they keep it in tip-top shape year-round. So, imagine that. Olympics in Germany or in Italy, except, well, part of it's going to be in the United States. It's not that this hasn't happened before. Back when Paris had the Summer Games last year, if you remember that, well, they had the surfing championship, which is an Olympic sport nowadays. You had to go to Tahiti for that one, because apparently they don't have surfing in France. Of course, not of anything I know that they have in France. Just passing this along to you in case you're a fan of the Olympics and you're one of those diehard luge bobsledders and skeleton people. Well, maybe, just maybe, the Olympic Games are going to have to bring that to the United States, to Lake Placid. If you're a fan, get your tickets booked. You might want to go out there and see it. Well, that's unless you have the money, and heaven knows how much they're going to charge you to do that. Just one of those small little things to think about. You're looking for a way to spend your Olympic dollar, not in Milan, Italy, but in Lake Placid, New York. Because if they can't get the luge built in Cortina, they're coming to America. And isn't that interesting? Everything seems to be coming to America. Much of the stuff I've discussed with you folks has to do with politics. And as a rule, I don't always try to do that all the time. Back in the old days when I was on the radio, I talked about a lot of other stuff that wasn't politics. But, hey, times change and I change. But there's still stories I want to tell you about, or things, little factoids of information that I want to pass along to you that, well, maybe you can use at a cocktail party or some Trivial Pursuit game or something you're involved in. And I'm going to give you two different sets of data today. One, the names of the new hurricanes coming up in 2025, because they name hurricanes different every year. And some people are going to be upset because, well, their names are on a hurricane. So we're going to give you the names for those, and the top grossing movies of all time. And I was kind of wondering about that, thinking, what movies are the greatest, have the most, made the most money? And I was thinking, well, it's got to be the Star Wars movie, or it's got to be this or that movie. I was really surprised. So we're going to take a look at that right now. These are the top grossing movies of all times, adjusted for inflation. So if you say, well, it was made back in the 70s, well, we've adjusted the rate. So here you go. Right now, number one movie of all time, Avatar. That's right, Avatar is the number one grossing movie of all time, $3.8 billion. Number two was Titanic. And that doesn't surprise me because I remember when that came out, everybody watched it, 2, 3, 4 times. At least my daughters did, went to see that. Came in at $3.4 billion. Then the Avengers Endgame, which is another one of the Avengers movie, in third place at $3.29 billion. Avatar, and I don't know what I've never seen an Avatar movie, so I can't really say. Avatar Endgame was 3.92, and Avatar, or no, I take that back. Avatar, The Way of the Water is 3.19. The Way of the Water, Avatar, that's number 4. Then Star Wars, not the original Star Wars, but the Star Wars, The Force Beckons, $2.6 billion. Avengers Infinity War, $2.4 billion. Jurassic World came in at $2.1 billion. Not the original Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. And then E.T. the Extraterrestrial, that goes back, clear back to the 1980s? I believe that did $2 billion, E.T. did. Spider-Man No Way Home was at $2.07 billion. The Avengers came in at $2 billion. Top Gun Maverick. Now, this even did better than Top Gun. Came in at $1.99 billion. Lion King, $1.98 billion. Jurassic Park, the original, $1.859 billion, and Ferocious number 7 at $1.8 billion. Now that, folks, was just in the movies, the all-time movies. Now, second thing we're going to talk about, hurricanes. 25 hurricanes. Number 1 is Andrea. Number 2 is Barry. Then comes Chantel, Dexter, Aaron, Ferdinand, Gabrielle, Umberto, Imelda, Jerry is number 10. Number 11 is Karen. I'm sure the Karens out there are not going to be happy with that. Lorenzo, number 12. Melissa, number 13. Nestor, 14. Olga, oh, that's a gem. Olga, number 15. Pablo, 16. Rebecca, 17. Sebastian is number 18. Tanya, 19. Van, 20. And windy, 21. So there's some factoid stuff for you at a cocktail party or whatever you want to use it for. Just information. It's not going to make you any better, may make you smarter, or at least you can win a bet somewhere. So there you go. Information you can use, and it ain't political. Go figure. Well, you probably heard that Elon Musk, who I call the Swamp Fox, has gathered up about 6 young folks, 6 baby-faced young men between the ages of 19 and 25, and who have no really government experience, but when it comes to computers and being able to find out what's in them and coding, they're better than anybody you could possibly imagine. So what they're doing is they are going to the various agencies around the United States and government, getting into the computers and finding out exactly where the waste, fraud, and abuse exist. And you know what? They're finding it. They got a 19-year-old kid by the Edward Korestein from Northeastern University, and Aska Babla, 21, student from Berkeley. Ethan Chotrans, 22, Harvard senior. And how about the 23-year-old Luke Ferrator from SpaceX? And Gavin Kilger, 25, he's the oldest. Gavin said, you know, I'm taking this job and I'm forfeiting a 7-figure paycheck. 25 and a 7-figure paycheck he's sacrificing to do this work for Elon Musk, who I call the Swamp Fox, because that's exactly what he's doing. He's getting in there to see what the waste, fraud, and abuse exists in government, and it's beyond anything you could possibly imagine, folks. He's got access to secured areas, restricted areas. He's getting access to everything. And they're finding out the good, the bad, and the really ugly. And believe me, there's some really ugly stuff they're finding. So, what they're doing is, they're looking for the problems and the waste in government and who's getting money and why. Turns out we are sending money to virtually everybody you can think of for all kinds of reasons, none of which are good, many of which are political, keep somebody in power. So that's what's going on, America. If you wonder what Gavin Newsom or what Elon Musk is doing with those 6 kids, don't worry about what you're hearing about from the left. The left is spouting saying, "Oh, they don't know anything. They're stupid. They're young. They don't have any experience." Really? You do not take young people with that brilliance, who understand coding, who understand computers, because frankly, the young folks of today really know this stuff better than you and I. I've got grandkids that know how to operate the car better than I do, because it's got all sorts of electronics in it. And you know what? That's the way they are today with kids. This is what they're learning, and they know stuff now you and I would never know. So Gavin's using his young people, or Elon's using his young people, and they're going to find the stuff whether anybody likes it or not. Let's just stand back and wait and see what they discover. You just might be surprised, because it may just shock you, and we're hoping that it does. If you were one of 125 million people that watched the Super Bowl, you may have seen a commercial for a telephone company called T-Mobile. It's a cellular company, but they were offering something new and rather unique, and it's something that, well, most Americans haven't heard about. It's a link up between Starlink, which all those satellites surrounding the Earth put up by Elon Musk, and T-Mobile. So you get a satellite company and a cell phone company matching up and giving a service. Here's the service they're offering. And right now, it's free. So let's get your attention with that. Here's the deal. Let's say you go somewhere and there's no cell service, and you're going there and saying, you know, I'm out in the desert, I'm in the forest somewhere, I'm not getting any cell service. Well, now with what they're offering through Starlink is actually you will have cell service because you're working with satellites. And the way it works is this. If you're interested in getting this for free, because right now it works until July, and then it goes for a regular service, but it's in a beta mode right now. Let's say you have an iPhone 14 or above. So anything below 14, that ain't going to work. You got to have the newer phones because of the newest equipment they have. Or in the as far as your sat phones go, or the Samsung phones, they got to be the newer phones. Now, you go to the T-Mobile website and you get signed up. And then they will send you down a code that once you're established in the system, and a software package that will load into your phone. Now, this will require putting a second phone number on your phone. And that phone number is designed for text messages only. Right now, what you're getting is text messages only, because they haven't developed the video yet, and that's coming, but it hasn't developed yet. And so the text messages, anywhere you go, hey, if you don't have service, you still have text service. Now, it's free. It's free until July, when they finally take it from beta and take it, running actually like it normally runs. And eventually, they're going to have video service and data service and everything else. But right now in the beta service, it's just text messages. But if you go to tmobile.com, you can sign up for it. They'll send you down the package, send you down the software loaded in your phone to give you a new secondary cell phone number for your text messages. It's available right now. All you got to do is, like I said, go to T-Mobile. Doesn't cost you anything now. Now, what they're trying to do is to get you onto T-Mobile's service. It's a marketing gimmick. But if you have AT&T and Verizon, hey, your phones will work as long as they're at i14 or above. So check it out. It's going to cost the folks over at T-Mobile about $20 a month if you have that. But if you've got another service, well, you can actually buy it from T-Mobile and still keep your own service. Something available. Anyway, it was announced, and now it exists, so now you know what it is. You want to get the free texting, at least until July, just check out tmobile.com and link up to Starlink, and you won't even need to be worried about out in the desert somewhere not having a cell phone, because now you will. Technology is coming, folks. Pretty soon it'll be all satellites and no more cell phone pods. That's how it's coming. The system is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And now you know. If you've been paying attention to the news lately, you've been hearing yelling and screaming coming out of Washington, D.C. One side is saying, how dare you do this? You're getting into secret stuff. The other side is DOGE. DOGE is Elon Musk and his merry Muskateers, if you will. And they're out there going into various departments, finding out money where it's being spent. We're trying to figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is happening. We went in a group called USAID. USAID. Now, they're supposed to be giving out money to countries and people that are hurting and starving folks and all those kind of things. Here's what we discovered USAID is doing. They were giving Politico, which is a political magazine that is very favorable to the Biden administration. Turns out they gave them $34.3 million. And once the money was cut off, suddenly Politico says we can't make our payroll. What do you think? Who do you think's paying the people? Turns out that something like 6,000 journalists are actually getting paid by USAID, and I don't know what for. But that's what DOGE and the Musk is finding out. This is where your money is going, folks. Oh, and this is an even bigger one. People in government, according to what they found out in digging in the computers, people in very high up in government were paying Politico $10,000 for a subscription to their publication. You heard me right. Will you pay $10,000 for a subscription to anything? Apparently in Washington, D.C., you pay $10,000 to get a subscription, and a whole lot of people were paying that. Suddenly, the news about the Biden administration gets to be very good through Politico. That's just one of the places they discovered it. And they ain't the only newspaper, folks. They also found out the New York Times is on the take. The New York Times is getting huge amounts of money. Like in August of 2024, they got something like $5 million from the government. And then Health and Human Services gave them $26.9 million. That's the Fauci people. They also received a National Science Foundation, gave them $19.5. NASA, $3.8. Commerce Commission, $2.4. And even the Defense Department gave them $2.3 million. To the New York Times? Does that understand how they might be writing stories? Here's what they're learning. So we've got people, Elon Musk and his merry Muskateers are going into the computers, taking a look at exactly what they're spending the money on, where your dollars are going. and why we are so losing money so fast, turning into a debtor nation of big time of $36 trillion. And who's getting that money? It ain't people who are needy. We're buying off magazines and newspapers. That's what's being done, folks. And now you understand why some people are screaming and yelling, how dare we investigate the computers? Because they're covering up. And someone is telling them, you better be screaming loud and long because we're paying you a lot of money. Might answer some questions, really big questions. Something stinks in Washington, and Elon Musk and his merry Muskateers are finding out exactly what's going on. And folks, it ain't pretty. And that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. More to come. You can almost bet on it. Well, you may remember the story about the Olympic trials down in Indianapolis last summer when a group in Fort Wayne, the Fort Wayne Swim and Wellness Alliance, actually bought that 50-meter swimming pool set up. Broke the whole thing down, carted it up to Fort Wayne, trying to figure out where to put it. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about that, but it was just announced that the Northwest Allen County School District is teaming up with the Fort Wayne Swim and Wellness Alliance and to build a brand new natatorium. And that natatorium, they haven't determined where it's going to be located yet, but it is going to be a monster facility. The problem with that is this monster facility is going to be extremely large, 92,000 square feet. Now, that's a big building. However, it's going to cost a total of $54 million. You heard me right. $54 million. Now, they're going to have to get $38 million of it from the Northwest Allen County School District, $8.6 million from the Alliance, the Swimming Alliance. They're going to have to raise that money themselves. Not sure how they're going to do that. $6 million from state grants and from funds, and another $1.4 million from private grants and various commitments. All right, sounds fine. This sounds like a great plan. And if they want to do that, that's perfectly fine. Here's the problem. The people are going to have to approve a property tax increase. Now, ask yourself this. Are you willing to approve a property tax to build a natatorium in the Northwest Allen County School District? That's your call. And the people are going to vote for that, provided it gets onto the ballot, and I'm sure it will get onto the ballot. And I'm not sure how much it would be, but right now, that entire project is going to cost $54 million. Not all of it's through the property taxes, please understand that. But a very, very good portion of it, which is about $38 million, has to come through that. How much does that raise your property taxes? I do not know. But that's what's being offered right now. That's the plan. There was discussion about downtown, putting a natatorium downtown. Apparently, that's not going to happen. So apparently, whatever the organization downtown is doing for the block that has the Taco Bell or had the Taco Bell in it, apparently that's for something else. But right now, the Northwest Allen County School District and the Swim Alliance teamed up to build a monstrous natatorium with the Olympic pool and diving tank for only $54 million. And that, friends, is going to require a property tax increase. Are you willing to do it? If you haven't noticed, some of the biggest people in Washington, D.C. screaming and yelling about what Elon Musk and his merry band of marauders are doing to undercover waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington, D.C., there's certain members of Congress that are screaming really loud. And I mean really loud. Well, so doing a little investigation, I wonder how much every one of those senators is worth. Now, the average senator in the U.S. Senate makes about $174,000 a year, and some a little more tenure, gravitas, whatever, they make a little bit more. But it's $174,000 up to a potential of $400,000, but that's not the average. Now, here's the people I want you to take a look at. These are people that tell you how much they're worth, and they're doing the loudest squawking in Washington. How about we start with Ilhan Omar? She came to this country a refugee, had nothing. Now she's worth $83 million. How'd that happen? How about moving on to the head of the Senate, Chuck used to be the head of the Senate, Chucky Schumer. Chucky's worth $75 million. And, of course, Pocahontas. Who can forget her? Pocahontas is worth $73 million. Where did she get that money? And Adam Schiff, the newest member of Congress from California. Remember, he was the Russia guy? Adam Schiff, $60 million in his pocket. Jamie Raskin, he's the guy who wants to do all the impeachment stuff. From Baltimore, Jamie Raskin, he's got $20 million in his coffers. Hakeem Jeffries, Hakeem's got $14 million in his treasure chest. And let's go with Jasmine Crockett. She's talking an awful lot. She's got $10 million in her. She's got $10 million. She needs to work a little harder, get a little more money. Cory Booker. I think Cory Booker's from New York or New Jersey, I believe. He's got $14 million. All of these people are crying foul about what Elon Musk is doing. Elon Musk, the swamp fox, trying to find out where the waste, fraud, abuse is and try to get it out of the government. You know, folks, we are, $36 trillion in debt? And about every 100 days it goes up another $1 trillion. We're massively in debt. What Elon's trying to do in his merry band of marauders is trying to figure out where that money's going. Where are we shipping it to? Who's getting it? Now, those senators getting all that money, that's being given to them by their benefactors. Benefactors give them a few million. Next time the benefactors want something or a bill taken care of, or for them to start screaming about where money's going, and the benefactors don't want people to know where it is, well, then that's their job. They are paid hucksters. That's exactly what this is. Now you're finding out Washington, D.C. is nothing more than a swamp sewer, where the people there are being paid by the folks in the K Street. They call them the lobbyists. They pay them. They'll do whatever they say. They're puppets. That's what we're dealing with, folks. Now you know who's making the big bucks and what's going on. Just something for you to know. And ask yourself, where did all these people get their millions? It certainly wasn't by working. You know, after a few months of doing the Pat White Show, had something happen that kind of got me to thinking about, well, history, longevity, and friends. And this brought me to a story I happened to see on one of our local television stations. It was Channel 21 to be exact. And it was a story about a closing of a local Fort Wayne business. And when I sat there, I went, oh my gosh, that's a friend of mine. Well, it turns out the business is closing is Dave Hill Meats on Washington Center Road. Now, there's another Hill's Meats on over there in Waynedale area. That's Dave's brother. This is Dave Hill Meats on Washington Center Road. Dave's been in business since 1996. And I got to know him when I was on the radio back in the old days, starting in 1997 after Dave opened at WOWO, where I was doing the afternoon drive. Well, ultimately we got a remote to doing at Dave's place. The Queen Diana and I did a remote like we've never done a remote before, and I don't think we ever did one like that afterward. It was something unique at Dave Hill's. We had more people coming in. They had to call police in to handle the traffic. It was that big. We were giving stuff away. People were going into Dave's store. And over the years, Dave and I have become friends. Now, yes, he's where I go to get all my meat, where I get all my fresh turkey for Christmas and my Aussian ham for Easter, and just anything I need for barbecuing or whatever. His ham salad, oh, nothing. It's superb. You've never had ham salad. Well, Dave's closing. The only reason, and I happen to drive by his place, it's over at Washington Center, and there's a sign up there that talks about the property being turned into a gas station. Well, apparently Dave doesn't own that property. He, like many folks out there, he rents, has a landlord. Well, that landlord has decided that it would be better to have a gas station where Dave's market is. I don't know the reason why. I can't question him, and I shouldn't. But having a gas station where people normally come to buy their groceries and their meats and have been doing it for, 25, 29, 30 years? I question that, but that's not my call. Landlord can do whatever he wants to with the property. I'm just trying to tell you that Dave's place will be closing on March the 2nd, and I feel bad for Dave, I feel bad for his family, and most of all, I feel bad for his employees who've been with him forever. I don't know what those people are going to do. I don't know what Dave's going to do. I hope he opens up another store somewhere, but I don't know. I'm just telling you that Fort Wayne is losing a monument place. A place that's like no other place you've ever been to. And if you haven't been to Dave Hill Meats, you haven't been to Dave Hill Meats. So that's my way of saying that I'm going to miss Dave. I'm going to miss his people. I'm going to miss his service. And most of all, I'm going to miss the quality of meats that I've been buying from him for years. This ain't a plug. It's just something to tell you that stop by and see Dave. Tell him goodbye. Tell him thank you. He closes on March the 2nd. It'll be a great memory for him and for everybody else. Dave Hill Meats is going away, and that's a sad state of affairs. If you've been paying attention to the news lately, you've been hearing yelling and screaming coming out of Washington, D.C. One side is saying, how dare you do this? You're getting into secret stuff. The other side is DOGE. DOGE is Elon Musk and his merry Muskateers, if you will. And they're out there going into various departments, finding out money where it's being spent. We're trying to figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is happening. We went in a group called USAID. USAID. Now, they're supposed to be giving out money to countries and people that are hurting and starving folks and all those kind of things. Here's what we discovered USAID is doing. They were giving Politico, which is a political magazine that is very favorable to the Biden administration. Turns out they gave them $34.3 million. And once the money was cut off, suddenly Politico says we can't make our payroll. What do you think? Who do you think's paying the people? Turns out that something like 6,000 journalists are actually getting paid by USAID, and I don't know what for. But that's what DOGE and the Musk is finding out. This is where your money is going, folks. Oh, and this is an even bigger one. People in government, according to what they found out in digging in the computers, people in very high up in government were paying Politico $10,000 for a subscription to their publication. You heard me right. Will you pay $10,000 for a subscription to anything? Apparently, Washington, D.C., you pay $10,000 to get a subscription, and a whole lot of people were paying that. Suddenly, the news about the Biden administration gets to be very good through Politico. That's just one of the places they discovered it. And they ain't the only newspaper, folks. They also found out the New York Times is on the take. The New York Times is getting huge amounts of money. Like in August of 2024, they got something like $5 million from the government. And then Health and Human Services gave them $26.9 million. That's the Fauci people. They also received a National Science Foundation, gave them $19.5. NASA, $3.8. Commerce Commission, $2.4. And even the Defense Department gave them $2.3 million. To the New York Times? Does that understand how they might be writing stories? Here's what they're learning. So we've got people, Elon Musk and his merry Muskateers are going into the computers, taking a look at exactly what they're spending the money on, where your dollars are going, and why we are so losing money so fast, turning into a debtor nation, a big time of $36 trillion. And who's getting that money? It ain't people who are needy. We're buying off magazines and newspapers. That's what's being done, folks. And now you understand why some people are screaming and yelling, how dare we investigate the computers? Because they're covering up. And someone is telling them, you better be screaming loud and long because we're paying you a lot of money. Might answer some questions, really big questions. Something stinks in Washington, and Elon Musk and his merry Muskateers are finding out exactly what's going on. And folks, it ain't pretty. And that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. More to come. You can almost bet on it. I want to talk to you Hoosiers that like to go down to Florida in the winter. They call you snowbirds. Well, if you do go down to the winter, here's a little thing you might want to keep in mind when you go down there, something you may not know about, but Florida has some very interesting laws, especially laws involving trees. Now, let me tell you, here's a lady down in Cape Coral, Florida, which is way down south. Her name is Yaneli Guzman, and she was going into work at a TJ Maxx store at a mall where she works. So she found a parking spot, and there was a tree right there above the parking spot. And she pulls into the parking spot, and apparently there's a low-hanging branch on the tree, a pretty good-sized branch, and she bumps into it with the top of her car. Well, you're going, okay, gee, that happens. So she said, well, I guess I'm not going to park here. She moves to another place and parks in a different location. Goes in, tells her manager what had happened. And manager says, well, what you need to do is file a police report. That way you can get a claim in for any damage to your car and get your car fixed. So she writes up a report, contacts the police. They meet her out in the parking lot of the TJ Maxx in this mall where she works. And instead of taking the report, the police officer arrests her, handcuffs her, and takes her to jail. You're going, what? They took her to jail while she's trying to file a report on hitting a tree with her car? Yeah. You see, in Florida, that's one of the laws they have down there, which is a little weird, that if you hit anybody's tree on a private parking or a private area, not in a public area, on a private area, if you hit a tree on someone's private property, which a mall is, you can be subject to 6 months in jail and a fine. Now, Ms. Guzman, state attorney, took a look at it and dropped all the charges for lack of evidence. And obviously they can't prove that she was there. But Ms. Guzman still has to pay $4,000 in legal fees and obviously pay for the damage to her automobile. So a word to the wise, folks. If you're like going down in Florida in the winter and you decide you want to go over to a mall and do some shopping or whatever, don't hit a tree. Now, if you do hit a tree, the police say you should take out a piece of paper, write down the information on your vehicle, your registration number, and any pertinent information, and attach that piece of paper to the tree limb. I'm not making this up. Attach it to the tree limb, and that way the police can see that you filed your official report on hitting the tree. Yeah, Florida law, folks. I don't make this stuff up. But now you know. Be careful down in Florida, especially on private property hitting a tree. It's one of the weird laws they have in Florida, and now you know.